Man, this is why we love Think Tank Tuesdays on the morning show, because you not only walk away feeling like, man, this is just some good information, but also feel like, man, this is some really good, applicable information that I can run with today. And that still continues to be the trend all the way till 8:30 this morning. And right now, we are getting into topics that are shaping our future. Today's guest has sparked some serious reflection in the world of communication and media with her recent article titled AI in Media, Between a Rock and an Impossible Place. She's a seasoned entrepreneur, an ethics officer, a marketing expert, and an international speaker who's been helping businesses think smarter and act wiser. Unita Foster, welcome to the morning show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You know, when you speak about AI in the media space, I'm just like, oh, all the alarms start ringing and sounding at that point in time, because we've embraced AI a little too much sometimes. But you're someone who's saying you're interpreting human speak into AI speak to make it make sense in business speak. Let's speak normal speak and make me understand what that means.
There you go, the human speak works.
Tell us about that.
The human speak or the business speak or the AI speak?
All the speaks.
All the speaks. Here's the thing, when you start getting involved in new subject matter like AI, it's all about the jargon, all about sounding smart and so on. But when you're running a business, there are very real things you have to consider. And at the speed AI and content creation is moving and technology is moving, there's absolutely no way to go from quickly reading something to understanding, to translating, to becoming an expert in it in a way that you can coach and teach it. AI's made us think that we are quicker, but in actual fact, it is bypassing quite a few thought processes that we need to figure out where do we need to pull back on, where do we use AI as it is for the best of its capabilities, for the worst of our capabilities, and where do we call halt and say, this is now time for not only human speak, but human thinking and human nuance.
You know, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I think we've become lackadaisical in the sense of, no, AI is going to make it make sense for me and then we just keep it moving. But there isn't actually an applied knowledge that we have. Is this why you say between a rock and an impossible place? What dilemma are you highlighting there?
The rock and the impossible place is you can't not use it, but if you use it, you have to use it in a certain way. And if you use it in that certain way, you have to have the skills and the knowledge to be able to use that in a certain way. But if you don't have the skills and knowledge, where are you going to find it? In AI, which is where you shouldn't find it. So it's a whole conversation is a whole mess. So here's the thing. AI, if we're talking AI for this conversation, we are purely talking generative AI, not all of the other AIs, because then we'll be here the whole day. Generative AI, most of us know as ChatGPT, and Gemini, and DeepSeek, and so on, right? So generative AI. If we are asking generative AI, a generative AI tool, to create something for us because it's quicker and easier, that's where we need to figure out, hang on, do I want to create based on existing knowledge, and that's where the danger lies, or am I going to create my own thing? Generative AI is based on large language models, LLMs, so technically existing knowledge, other people's work, other people's thoughts, other people's contribution to our general knowledge base. So if we are using generative AI to create, let's pause there and say, am I really creating?
If I'm using somebody else's
If I'm using
knowledge.
someone else's, or am I curating, am I compiling, am I doing something else? If I am genuinely wanting to contribute to the knowledge base, if I want to contribute something new, then that new comes from me. ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Gemini does not create new. It compiles in a new format, in a new structure, new way, but it compiles based on existing knowledge.
And this is a danger, right? Because you could spin off somebody else's and kind of sign your name on it and say, oh yeah, this is what I've put together. But actually you haven't really, other than the prompt that you've given to AI to generate this compilation of existing data. And we've seen the rise over the last couple of years where especially academic institutions have been the forefront of this, saying, you do not use any generative AI assistance in any form, any platform. Harvard has been one of those that's been very clear towards this. Is this one of the ways that we can be able to curb it in saying, well, we do use it, but still toe that line and find ourselves really dancing between the rock and the impossible place?
If that was the answer, then we wouldn't have been here today.
True.
You cannot out-legislate bad behavior. You cannot create a policy and a rule and a framework that every decent but dubious person is going to comply with. So yes, you can have rules, you can have policies, you can have frameworks. And for every law, for every policy that's ever been created, there's been a workaround. That's what people are really good at, figuring out workarounds. So creating that policy, creating the rules, that's the starting point. In any organization, any business, saying, if we are going to use generative AI tools, AI agents, any other AI tools, then the framework in which we do it, the playing book in which we are doing it as a company is as follows. When we use prompts, when we use, in which cases do we use it? What is our intent? How do we measure that intent? Have we taught our people critical thinking? Have we taught them on honesty? Have we taught them ethics thinking? And if we have equipped them with this type of thinking, let's unleash them into the world of AI because they've got a framework. So yes, absolutely codify what it is you want your people to do and not to do with generative AI.
Yeah.
But when that comes in, when you've given those rules, it's up to each person's own integrity and own moral compass on how they are going to use generative AI.
And that's always a slippery slope to kind of go through because you're not certain in what direction a person will decide to go. Let's talk a little bit more, especially with this guideline that you're giving, speaking about policies that we could kind of put about AI across media and communication that you think might safeguard us, that you think might, because at the same time, the worry is the integrity of the media gets lost, right? Because it's just like, well, how much of this is actually true? How much of this is actually what is fact? And we don't know what is fact and what is not. What are some of the guidelines that you might say are elements that one should consider in compiling policies and some sort of guidelines, specifically when it comes to media and communication?
First, please keep it human. If humans are supposed to follow it, please write it in human language so that humans can understand. That being said, an AI policy for me should include three things. And the first two are kind of the same, they overlap a lot. The first one is intent. What do you intend to use this for? In the intent, what intent is good for us in our organization? So some organizations might be producing original content. And there the intent is different. If it is to be original, then you have to have warning signs. If it is to rehash, to research, to compile, to repackage, whatever it is, that intent is different. So in the AI policy, specify what we use AI for and what we don't use it for. And then in the generation bit, in the prompting, say, well, how do you check yourself? Did you specify in your prompt what type of things should be included, what type of things should be excluded, what type of biases should be watched out for, and how AI should act for you? Because here's the thing, AI models are trained to score highly. AI models are trained to please humans. So we need to understand, while we are writing these prompts, it is trying to please us. And if we just take that answer because it makes me look amazing, because I make it look amazing, that's a little bit dangerous. So we need to check ourselves during the creation of it. Then the third part of any AI policy that I would advise, if it's human speak and drawn up by humans, is the disclosure bit. When do we disclose which parts were generated by AI? Because it's a matter of fact, it's here to stay. Generative AI is always going to help humans and is going to be helpful in getting content out quicker. Whether it's original content or curated content that is actually owned by someone else, it's here to stay. We have to learn to navigate with. We can't say we're not using it at all, because that is then not keeping up with the times and not keeping relevant at all. So the third part of disclosure, even if I, as a consumer, for example, reads a report that's been generated by a company and released by a company, if at the bottom it says, we used X amount of tools to assist in these parts of the research, of the generation, of the compilation, of the data analysis, and using the following sources, I would still trust that content. Because whether it's a researcher that researched other researchers' work, as you would go, old people style into the library, me now as well. If you reference it, it's still fine. So use those old style rules on AI, use AI to generate things quicker, to compile things quicker, but then reference the sources. So intent, let's clarify the intent in our AI policies. Let's make sure that while we are prompting, we recognize that AI is trained to please us. It's got certain goals, and that goals aren't necessarily the truth.
Yeah.
The whole truth and the entire truth. It's a very interesting experiment if you ask ChatGPT, if you just tell it don't lie, and you repeat don't lie quite a few times, ChatGPT gets quite irritated with you. It's a fun little experiment.
It's not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be making you pleased and make you happy.
And then lastly,
disclosure.
Do we disclose? What do we disclose? How do we disclose?
In light of that very last element of disclosure, I've got literally 1 minute left. I've got two questions I'm going to try squeezing into this. Is one, what is the risk and the consequences that we could stand if we don't have AI regulated and monitored within the media and content creation space? And second of all, for someone who might be saying, well, if it reads well and it doesn't sound like AI, I guess it should be fine. What's your viewpoint on this? Off to you.
Is it supposed to be original content, contributing, growing human knowledge, growing AI knowledge, growing knowledge? Is it supposed to be new? Is it supposed to be creative? Or is it supposed to just exist? If it's supposed to just exist, just be reformatted, and it doesn't really matter whether it's creative and innovative and new and your own, go for it. Use AI, less of a problem there. You know, that's another discussion. If you want it to be yours and original and creative and contributing to society and to knowledge, best you think very, very carefully about how exactly use AI in that process.
Anita, this has been a very refreshing conversation. I appreciate you writing that article and really guiding us into understanding the weight of this world we're stepping into, that we're living in, but also just being able to understand the differentiation between creating new and the compilation that we see generative AI really doing under the guise of creating. So thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Pleasure.
One thing I do know is that she did not lie. She did not make sure that I am pleased, but AI, that may be something completely different. We see it moving fast, but our responsibility is to think critically, to write ethically, and communicate with integrity, as that will never go out of style. A massive thanks to Anita Foster for joining us this morning. So next time you're about to put in a prompt there on ChatGPT or any AI platform, generative AI that is, make sure that you remember that this is compiling and not so much creating something from new. And if you want more details, check out a new article, AI in Media, Between a Rock and an Impossible Space, that is available online. And I'm sure you'll be able to be enlightened by some of the insights that she shares there. Don't go anywhere.